Right. Can anyone hear me? Are we good to go? I don't know if you can hear me. Yeah, okay. All right, let's start. So, today we'll be going through the second introduction of JavaScript, reading more in coverage to the events and actually animations as well as dynamic content. So that's why we have the main thing we are going through is advanced DOM events, event propagations that are very important to understand. DOM animations, which we were going through about how to use like intervals and timeouts, as well as a similar activity, a dynamic content, database retrieval, and then an optional activity on trying to retrieve data from a database. Alright, so the main things that we'll be really running through a recap on like lesson 1, but the things that we went through last week was learning how to run JavaScript, which learning how to run JavaScript through the console and also through scripts on the body tag, and understanding how to access the DOM by ID, class, or name or tag name. Both ID is a unique source where you will only have access only one element at a time, while else class and tag names will receive like multiple elements. So therefore, you will have to access them through an array through array methods. So the next thing that we went through was modifying the DOM, which there's two things that you can modify, mainly styles and attributes. Wait, let me. And also the last thing that was gone was attaching and detaching events to the DOM functions. Right. So if you guys have any questions through the workshop, you can feel free to write in the chat, or you can actually give me a moment. You can use the pigeonhole link and actually send your questions there a bit more specific. Let me send it. Create text. Oh, this is actually very big. Oops. Oh no, oh no. Let me fix that. Why is this so big? Oh man, why is this like not clear? Okay, I'll just put it up here, I guess. Yeah, so you can actually feel free to like send questions through the to this link. Yeah, itself. So the main things will be understanding in this lesson will be understanding how to locally handle events, as well as understanding how we can access external information into and put it into our website itself. Right. So the first thing we'll be going through is advanced DOM handling, event DOM handling. Okay. So the through the buttons actually in general that the last we left off was understanding how a function can be attached to a listener, which it would be on the click element, on the button click element. So we can kind of like understanding. So click itself is actually an event listener on in the DOM, where it listens to whether there is a click event on that element itself. So if we take this and apply it, all right. Okay, actually before we go through, this is actually a template that we can use through if you access the GitHub page. You know what? I'll just give the link here, the template link that we'll be using throughout the oh crap, I did not actually send the template. Oops. So this is yes. So that Richan, the lesson materials are available, but you would have like, as in the materials are available regardless there. Yeah, but I suggest you can use actually like coding pen or actually like through your own Visual Code Studio to like go through it. Alright, so moving through it, we'll so as you can see from this coding pen, which is just a regular way we can run scripts and HTML and CSS, but we don't actually need CSS, so we'll be just like kind of like running through that today. Right. So so the things that we left off was understanding how to access the DOM nodes as well as manipulating the DOM nodes, right? So let's say we take this function, right, and we want to attach it to this. Let me close this. You want to attach it to the image itself, and this image is this cat image, right? So this image should now have an event listener that is click that has the event listener click attached to it. It has the function enlarge. So this enlarge function should transform like this. Give me a moment. Is it because it's not? Oh, because I didn't. Wait, I didn't actually find the thing. Oh, oops, number of step 1 is wrong. So we need to first find the image. So document access, get element by ID, which is accessing DOM, and we want to look at cat. All right, so this is what we want to get. Save it. So hello, can you click? Why is this not clicking? Why is something wrong? Wait, let me see. Did I do something wrong? Cannot be. There's no way I did something wrong. This is so weird. Yeah, it should work. Why is it not working? So weird. Let me see. Is it just because this needs to be saved? Image. What the? Hello? Hello? Can you like? Oh my god, this shit is so shitty. Yeah, correct. It should be clicked. Why is it not working? So weird. Can I just work my other one? Give me a moment. Why is this not working? You know what? It's great. I'm just gonna change like other stuff. Console large document. What? Why aren't you working? Let's try this now. It worked. It's great. I'm just gonna change it like this. This shouldn't change anything though. Oh, why is it so weird? Yeah, okay, you know what? It's great. I'm just not gonna use this. I'm gonna use my code editor. It's great. Okay. Preview. Let's just preview this live server. Alright, okay. Let's put this here. And then I put this here so you guys can see. Alright. Alright. We arrange stuff. Give sorry for the delay, but we can just edit here. Okay, we should be able to get it now. This. Wait, this is not. Why is this? We'll attach the function. Alright, see, it works now. I don't know why it wouldn't work. This is so weird stuff in CodePen. Okay, actually don't use CodePen, just use your own website stuff. Alright, so so you don't actually need the CSS, so we're just removing all of it. Okay, let me remove this too. We don't need this for now. Alright, so in accordance to this, we are actually moving on to seeing like how like you can attach like DOM event listeners, and these are several common DOM event listeners. So on mouse over, on mouse out, and on click, on key down, which is using keyboard, on focus when you're actually in the focus, which means like you're in the element, which is like similar to how like if you use this is an element, for example, like this is an element, for example, for the input. So this is considered in being in focus. Alright. So when the element is selected. Okay. So there are actually many other DOM references that you can see through the link in the lesson materials. You can actually view this on the website, and this gives you a whole list of all the DOM event listeners. So this DOM event listeners are something that you can kind of really hook on and use to introduce very specific use cases of elements. However, the more common ones are already listed here. Okay. So just an example, kind of we're exploring this, like how we can use this this effect on mouse over and mouse event to create a let me let's do this. Yeah, it's better. Yeah, to create a single event to attach individual to create a kind of hover animator effect. So with most beginners, it's kind of typical to create like individual like functions to attach to each event. But it's kind of in general practice to kind of use more multi-function functions that aren't so specific, so that you won't be creating like mini functions for every little single thing. So in that case, we'll be kind of using a variable to emulate kind of a stateful function, which basically takes advantage of a variable that allows us to kind of track whether it's being on or off the mouse, right? So okay, so with that, we'll be understanding. So this is the variable that we're using. So mouse over is the thing. So if it's true, it means the mouse is currently over. If it's false, the mouse is currently or not, right? And what we'll be doing is just getting the element and stuff like that. We don't actually need this yet. You know what? We don't need it yet. So just take it. Let me take it out first. Why not? I just do it out. Crap, this is a mess. Alright, so we actually, once we paste the script in, we should see kind of like a difference in like the functionality, right? So it should now, oh crap, I did not actually take the event listeners. Alright, take the event listeners, and then when we attach the event listeners, we should see now that it reacts like this, right? But if we didn't have this two things, we needed, you'll see something different. Alright, so what are we seeing here, right? So this is actually a result of the CSS and transform capability that kind of scales up. Usually that it scales from the center point, and it kind of interferes like with cutting its inventory with other text, right? We don't want that, right? So although this is part of CSS that we don't really want to cover, we will delve more into it. Like I mean, you should delve more into it if you are kind of like interested in doing like smoother transitions and further animation. So so as we apply this the same thing again, you can see that we can kind of like do that transition right in between. So UI designers kind of like implement this kind of pre-built functions that are already built into CSS and JS to kind of understand the how do they move from one scene to another, right? And by using that, yeah, it's not here. Am I here? Yeah. So this helps them to kind of like not like in normal animations, you would see like a lot of people doing stop motion animation, which is like means you indicate every frame that work, but this prevents you from referencing kind of like every position, even though you can. Like you can just kind of like give like the overall start and end positions. So and or like the movement and translation of how much you need to go to. This kind of results like in the animation, auto generation of the animation itself, right? And so how transition kind of works, and that's using transform. So transform, for example, in this case, we can see is the function of scale 2 and 1, right? So this is a preview function, and then we're moving to seeing like how transitions work on the timer aspect on the transformation. So you can see here that we have actually originally set to transition as 0.5 seconds all. What does this mean? So if you actually look at the transitions property, right? So it's here. Oh, actually, they didn't tell you. Oh, they should tell you. Yeah. So it always specifies a transition duration property, which is the first one, and then where does which transform property that we are actually implementing here. In this case, we are just using all, so that it requires and we don't have to like set everything like set to scale and then everything. But if you want to set specific ones, you can actually like set transform property like 0.5 scale, and then it should still work, right? See? Oh wait, no, this doesn't work. It should be scale. No, what is that? Oh no, sorry. So this is supposed to be the animation type. Oh, sorry. Oh, it's supposed to be the animation name. Okay, so the transition animation is supposed to be the transition name, which is like under CSS animations. It should be here and CSS animations. Yeah, here. Right, will be under this animation names and stuff like that. Okay, so but not to worry. This is actually you can usually typically use 0.5 all. This kind of gives you like a pretty fast transition for like everything, unless you really want a specific like timing to everything. All right. So the next thing we'll move on is actually uh how we need. So before we proceed, we actually kind of need to understand the difference of type of content, right? Uh a normal website like this will be considered static, which means that it's relatively constant and only loads based on like kind of like fixed input that we input into like the system, or like the website itself, like in on HTML and stuff, or like in JS, right? So the second thing is understanding what dynamic is. So a dynamic website means that we fluctuate based on data input into the website, and then we adjust accordingly. It means we don't. It's not referenced to be constant, and therefore like it has to accommodate like different kinds of data. So based on how people usually implement dynamic content is using things like on the onload event, right? So an onload and unload event is something in the DOM that triggers when everything is static on the page has loaded cutting, and triggers when, and also unload is the opposite, right? It triggers when it's leaving the page. So so when we implement this, oops, right? So we create a function which is a load handler, for example. Oops, I forgot brackets, right? And now we want to attach it, right? So we find the body. We can do it like this as well. It's fine. Get element by get by tag. Body. And then we probably have to do like 0, and then we probably have to do like add event listener on load. No, I think it's just load, right? Yeah. Then you say like page on load handler. Wait, yeah, just load handler. Sorry, my bad. Alright, so we attach the load handler to it. Actually, we don't need this. Right. So this should actually run in console. Wait, why is it not running in console? Okay, you know what? We need to check. So things like this, where you don't understand why it doesn't work, you need to debug. So a critical feature of like understanding how to work with JS is actually like learning how to, for example, we need to find that are we for example really acting on the body itself, right? So we want to check, is this where I'm adding my listener? So let's see, right? I'm getting my body tag, that's fine, right? But why isn't it not adding the listener, right? So this is a thing that people don't actually always use, because there is more conflicts in using a single body tag, and people don't implement this because you can actually implement it by using this onload function through on the body itself. So once you have already described the function here, right, you can actually straight away, without going through here, you can actually straight away and say, careful, oops. Say I want to add my load handler here, right? And you can see here it's reacting. So once the page is loaded, no matter how much I press, it will print this page loaded, right? So this is more common that you will use, and you will actually kind of use this later on in the activities and in the optional activity. Alright. So you can kind of use this unlock event on any other tags. Generally we reserve it on dynamic content, or you can also use it on like images, for example, to make sure that they're already loaded before you like display something, right? So you can actually hide it first and then like wait until it loads and then like display at the end or something, like you hide it with a model or something, right? If you want to mitigate that, or add like animations in between, things like that. Okay, so yeah, so we can do things like this. And the most important thing that you should take away is that you can add as many event handlers to one event stack. So that means, right, you aren't actually like limited to the fact that you can only add like one function to an event listener. You can add like several functions, so you can create several. Let's say I want to have image hover, but I also want to have like another thing to print here, right? I could just let's say, oh, actually, you know what? I'll just create another image. I can do this. Mouse mouse over, load handler, and then show up. Yeah, see? So whenever you can see, it's still running this. Alright? It's gonna take something to load. Right. So you can see here that it's actually running this, even though we have two event handlers. Alright? Okay, so but the key thing is, how do you know which goes first? Does it actually go expand the thing and then print first, or does it print first and then expand first? This is important when you're actually planning like animations or things like things to segmentally go like in a linear fashion. All right. So so the important thing that we kind of need to see is what event propagation is. So what event propagation is actually dealing with how many events that are running and seeing how the order that we want to run it by, right? Okay, yeah. So there are two main ways that kind of the event handlers kind of occur, and we kind of want to. There's two main ways of like kind of distributing that. So the first is event bubbling, which is kind of the innermost element being handled first, and then the outermost. This means that if I have let's say I have a on mouse event, you know what? Yeah, basically if I have a mouse event like in this div, like you can see there's this division here, right? And I have a mouse event on my image itself. This image will run first, the event will run here, following my div. Alright? So this this is called event bubbling, and this is what the default setting is. So if you do not specify in your add event listener, this is what you will get, right? You will run the inner one first and then the outer one first. But the opposite is also important. But like if you want like the outer ones to handle first and then the inner one, then we call it event capturing, right? So you can actually see this through let me show you this. So you can actually add two, let's say for example, we'll be adding two event listeners to this. Event listeners. Okay, actually, you know what? I don't need this large anymore. Don't need this event same. Alright. So bubbling catch. Oh wait, actually you need the large. Oops. Alright. So if you set it to true, this makes it event capturing, right? If you set it to false, it makes it event. I think wait, is the default true or is it false? Actually, you know, that's fine. I can't remember. Event. It's false, right? Yeah, it's true. So it's okay. Sorry, right. The original is the default is false. So that means, right, if we set this to false, the third false, set to false. What should happen here is that the image event should trigger first, and then the document, the picture diff itself, which is to alert us whether the diff is first or the image comes first. All right. So we want to see that, right? If the image doesn't come first, right, it will not transform. So if the diff is like it will transform only if it's first. Okay. Let's run it. So you can see it's running. It's our console running. Wait, why is our bubbling capture not? Hello? Oh, need to save. Oops, sorry. I don't need this onboard handler anymore. Alright. So you can see here that the diff is first. So what do we learn here? The most important thing that you need to learn that we understand here that the diff is actually going first. Why is this true? So that means because we set the thing to false, this makes it bubbling capture, right? So whatever that we're running here in this diff is actually running first compared to the image here. Alright? Correct it is. So therefore the diff is actually true and then makes it not transform at all. However, if we want to change it to event bubbling, which is from the bottom up, you can actually see that wait, hello. Why is this not working? Hello, honey. Wait, is it because I'm not saving stuff? Can not save stuff properly. Diff first is not defined. What in the world? Oh, okay, I know. Diff first prior. Just gotta define the original function here. I set it false because this is true, so I set it to original false. So this should work. Yeah, so the image is first, then first it expands. Alright. So this is actually what we understand. Okay. So this is really important because this allows us to look at how we can really order the events that are coming in. Okay. So yeah. Right. And then moving on to DOM. Okay, so we actually take a little like a minute break and we'll see. If you have any questions, please post in the pigeonhole like link over here, and then let us know like any like specific questions. And we'll take a mini break to sort out. Also, if you have any questions, you can actually write them out in the chat itself too. So let's see if there's any questions. can the link for the notes be shared? If I did not receive the mail for today's lesson details. Yeah, and the link is, I think the link is being shared already, right? Yeah, commented. Yeah, okay. Thank you. Yeah. So with that, anybody no questions? No questions? All right. So wait, let me see why this not. Right. So to actually look more on the animations, usually there are many ways to implement this. You can actually see it through like CSS animations, like you can actually go and see and compare, like okay, like this, things like this. You can actually see that they made everything through CSS. Like they made all the animation effects. So they set the delays and stuff like that. Like you could do this. You can also do like you can also do like, I think what's that, animation. Okay, I can't remember. Add animation. Yeah, you can do like add animation and then like, oh no, sorry, keyframes, like keyframes. Yeah, so this is, you can actually like set up the keyframes to like certain frames and things like this. You can, there's a lot of things you can do. You also can do it by JSON lotties. So JSON lotties, is something that you can actually implement in your website. You can use files that are already set up. So they are already set up in this file type called JavaScript object. Was it node? I think JavaScript object node. Yeah, something like that. Okay. Yeah, but they are already set up in this object so that you can actually like understand, like the DOM can understand and interpret like this entire animation itself. Okay, so but actually through JS we actually need to understand two things to create like animated components, or in any effect, like timing, understanding time. So the default time measurement for JS that usually is used is actually 1000 ms to 1 second. So this is actually measured in ms. So you can also specify like seconds. So like if you can see here that I specified like 0.5 seconds here, you could specify that, but you need to specify that. Like if you just use numbers, like it will interpret it as if it's on microseconds, right? So so the two functions that you need to understand is set timeout and set interval. So the set timeout actually set like it sets a function to trigger after a defined delay. Like let's say you want to run a particular function at 3 seconds, right? Or you want to then after 3 seconds, maybe after you click, maybe wait for 3 seconds and like give it thing, like you don't need, yeah, things like this. Then you use set timeout, right? And if you want to be recurringly every few seconds, then you need a set interval. So it's very clear cut, right? So this is the set time and then you set interval. So timeout, okay. So for example, we're using we can actually like set this script to run, and this will originally give us a button that will only say hello after 3 seconds. So for example, we say hello, and then we say we want it to say hello. Alright, so if you click this trigger, it should wait 3 seconds, and we should get alert that is, oh wait, oh I forgot. Wait. Oops. This is supposed to be set timer. This is supposed to be close bracket because that's broken. Alright. So actually, wait, why is this here? Touch on a triage. Oops, sorry, this is supposed to be a function. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 3 seconds. All right. So you can set up functions like another function here, like this, to run it like this. See, it works like this. Or you can, that's another way you can set it up to be, as in you can set it up beforehand, like I don't know, like setting a function like hello function, hello. Then you say alert, and we can put the word hello here. All right. So this would run the function after 3 seconds. Also, see, after 3 seconds. All right. So it is hello. Okay. So this gives us a kind of like a clear cut understanding of how timeout, like how delays work. And we're going through like an activity which I will go through. Should try for now. Is this makes use of the set interval, right? So you should actually try this out to give you like a more layer understanding in how you can set up kind of animations to look good on a HTML site, for example. But you can also make use of other resources and libraries. Sure, you can do that. But this gives you a deeper understanding of how, if you want to create custom animations for yourself, you can actually make use of these timeouts and delays. Okay. So the activity is make counter clock that sets up a div. Basically, like you can start when it starts, the div is red, right? And then when it's finished, you can change it to green. You can also set a div to like write how many seconds it's counting down is exactly. So this, feel free to make one, right? But take some time now to actually try to make this work by yourself. So meanwhile, we'll just chill and if you have any questions, please feel free to highlight now. Alright, so I don't think most of you are done with it yet. Alright, so I don't think most of you are done with it yet. But we'll actually we'll start to go through and how we can actually make that happen. Right? So this is this. Wait, let me set something up. Alright, this is a stupid thing that didn't work. Alright, this thing didn't work. This thing didn't work. Oh, pigeonhole. Oh, okay. Wait, you know what? The question. Okay, can you clarify for the things? Alright, so when I did declare false, what does this mean? Alright, so when I did declare false, right, this tells it that it's actually that you want the innermost element to handle the function first. So that means if you view it within like how do I put it? You know what? I'll just do a stupid drawing. Alright, so let's say we attach two similar functions. Wait, no. This is not. Sorry, this one. Yeah, this one. So let's say I have this, and I have another div inside this, right? It could be exact same size. It doesn't matter. So but I attach let's say I add on mouse on click here, and maybe another one here on click. Right. So oops. Where's my layers? Alright, so what this means, right, is that if I set the onClick function to this bigger div, or like whatever size div is, and we set a function to this div, what will happen is that it creates like a contradiction. Not say a contradiction, it will double click, because like when you're clicking on this, you are actually clicking on this div as well as this div. Alright, so when you set it to false, what you're trying to tell it is that you want the function on this image to occur first, and then the outer, this bigger one. Alright, you do not want, if you want it the other way, then you set it to true. So you want this outer function to run first, and then this, anything. In most cases, it doesn't really matter, but in terms of animations or things like when you're trying to do transitions and stuff like that to handle it, it might matter, because you want things to be in a sequential manner. Alright, so I hope you answered your question. So when you set false, you actually get from bottom up, or like the smallest, I'll say bottom up. So like this is considered inside out, and then outside in, right? So that's basically the idea. So if you set it to false, it's inside out, and then from true to outside to in. Okay, that's the analogy anyway. So wait, can I actually screenshot this? Maybe I can type in the comment there. Oh no, I cannot. I don't know if someone can type that in there for me. Yeah, but I hope you answered your question. Would the codes be shared for the very activity? Yeah, they will be shared. Like I will add a thing, but please do try it yourself. Okay, so moving along with our activity. So where's the activity? We wrote here. Was it here? I was here. Yeah. So to make the countdown clock, right? So what do we need to make a countdown clock? We need a number, right? So we need to understand like how our numbers actually run. Wait, this is not the right one. This is not the right one. Wait, let me look for my stuff. Wait, was I muted? Oh no, I wasn't. Okay, good. I thought I was muted. Oh crap, that's scary. Give me a moment. Alright, so actually, what we need to make this work is we need a div. So a div tells us basically the div from green to red, right? So let us set up that div. So let's set up the div. You say we want a div here, and this div needs to have ID so that we can actually change the background color, right? So it's like countdown countdown. I don't know, like okay, traffic light, I guess traffic light, countdown light. Okay, whatever. So, but we also need a way to import how many seconds we want to do it, right? So there are 2 ways you can. I mean, we don't have to do that. So let's have a countdown. So, well, obviously we can always use timeout to create that, but we also want to display the number that actual countdown timer, right? So we'll have this. We'll set up a function to start the countdown. So let's say we have this. Oh, you know what? I actually need a function for like the ID. You know what? I'll just use the input. That's easier. ID is countdown timer, and we'll set that to a number. Type to a number. So this should give us right. So we can actually like write numbers in here. Okay. So this would be the first thing, and we also need a start button. So we need a start. So like we need a button to start. ID countdown start whatever. Okay, and then we also need a function to it, but we need to call it start. And okay, so these 2 things. Wait, why is this? Where's my div? Is it because my div is too small? Did I not set up my div? Oh yeah, because I didn't set anything on my div. Yes. Alright, okay, you can see it now. Whatever. I know what. Just call it like light. Okay, whatever. Alright, so so in our countdown, so we need to interact and put a function to our countdown, right? How do we do that? So we need to first create a function, right? So let's say we want a function and we call it, I don't know, start countdown. Alright, so we can obviously use like finding an element, find the element which is our document, get element by ID, and get our how much time that we got, right? So we need to actually get the countdown. Timer. And okay. So dot value. Alright. So this is for if you haven't not learned this before, this is actually mainly for input function with input. You can actually get the value here in this thing through accessing it to the DOM and then getting the value, just looking for the value attribute. Okay, so this is how we are gonna use our thing. So actually the ID is wrong. Let's set up the thing right. Alright, so this is the, you know what, let's just call it timing, like this timing that we need to start at. Alright, okay. And then the actual element that we need to edit, it's document.get element ID the countdown light, I think it was. And then we're just getting the element, right? We will set the background later off different. Yep. Okay, so the double checking if your IDs are right, you're right. Alright. Okay. So how do we actually use like oh, you know what? We should actually just set like the element, like see if we can get the step by step we'll get the thing out. So let's set the inner HTML of this to the value of our timing. Alright. So we should run this and attach it to this. So call it on click and we'll run it. What do you call it? Start countdown. Alright. So if we run it, we should see it in this. Wait. Yeah, you should see it in this div. Oh wait, I didn't actually put the number in. Yeah, so you put 2, you see 2, you say like 5, comes 5. Okay, so how do we actually make this countdown using an interval? Let's see. So the first thing we need to understand is we want, since we want it to be an interval, we want to go it by how many seconds? We need to go. We are just going by seconds in general, right? So and we need to manually count down every second till it gets to 0, right? We don't want it so that I mean, you can obviously use timeout as we said before, but in this case we want to because we want to see every number, right? And you won't get that with timeout. So you can always the one thing that we want to do is firstly we need to create like a scene, right? So I usually call this scene. So scene, what a function scene is usually means that I call it in terms of like an animation scene. So that means like a particular like point in time where you're referencing it, right? So that you can actually you know what, that for better use case, you know what, not use case, for better practices, it's actually better to use a local function here. So that means we don't want the body to ever see this function, and like so that this function is only contained in this, because this function will only ever touch this function. So we want to recurrently call a function every second so that we can get it up to 5 to 0, right? So what do we need to start first with? First, we need to check if the timing that we get inside this, since this is a local function, you can also access this local variables. You can access this, check this is equals to 0. If it is, then we want the element to say in the HTML, say finished, right? And then if else, we want the timing to actually go down, right? We want to make sure that we can see it differently, and we we want to set the thing to showcase our how much time we have left. So timing. All right. So this should work. Okay, wait, no. We have so there's one thing we haven't done yet. The one thing that we haven't done yet is actually attaching it to the interval itself. So like we want to do it every second, right? So how we do that is we say we want we set interval to scene, or you know what, I just call this each second, I don't know, whatever. It's easier to understand. So we want this function each second, and we want it to go to every second. So, and 1000 ms is 1 second. All right. So, oh yeah, we forgot something. So, so the one thing that's important in understanding how to use intervals is that an interval will always constantly run in the DOM. Let's say if I run like I don't know. Let's say I run like set interval here, alert, hello, every second. I don't know, for some reason. Okay, so you can see that every second I'll get hello. Oh wait, is it order? Yes, yeah, it gets hello again. So it will constantly give me every second hello. Wait, why is it? Oh, because it's not a function. I keep forgetting. It's so stupid, not run. Alright. Okay, see every second, even though I click OK, right? It's not actually running. Like it will constantly run. Like I can't stop it right now. Like no matter how I click now, like there's so many. Every second is running. Right. So how do we get rid of that? How do we actually stop the timer from working? Because we don't want to run if it's already running, right? So there's this function that is called clear interval, and this clear interval helps us to clear whatever that we previously set. All right. So, but how do we actually do this, right? So we actually need to put this set interval all the way up here, right? Because we already registered the function here anyway, right? We need to actually say that we want this countdown, record this function, this interval in this variable itself, and then just say we want to clear it afterwards. Okay. So this is the way that we want to clear it. If we do not set this interval, it will always run, so that it will keep trying to check and set this to inner finish. Okay. So let's try that now. So let's say we set 5. Let's say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay. So why does it not change it to the finished? So in actuality, we have already cleared the interval. So wait, have we actually cleared the interval? Oh, we haven't actually cleared the interval. Wait, are we? Each second. Wait, why is this not interval? Hello? Why is this fucking thing so weird? Not screw it, let's go for equals 0. Crap, oh crap. Oh crap. 4, 3, 2, 1. What? It's so weird. This is so weird. Oh, my bad. Guys. I actually forgot to. I'm actually setting the inner HTML wrong. I just realized. Alright, it's not a function, but actually, yeah. Alright. Okay, so that means we are actually getting it right now. Okay, so this is how we are actually running the thing. So the main thing that we need to get across is that how we now change it. What we want to do is set this thing to red and then set to green later, right? So all you need to do is just set here, say we want to set the document, the element, style, background color to red. Okay. And then wait, did we say we want it to be red, green or red first? Oh yeah, red. Okay. Yeah. So we set it to red, and then we say we want this to appear here, and set it to green. Oh crap. That's not right. Okay, so you can see it's red. Then we start it, sets it to green, sets it to green. Alright? So you can see here you just make your first interactive shitty animated component. But this gives you an insight into how all other libraries and everything takes advantage of this function, as well as the timeout function, to actually generate this kind of like drawn out process of animations, right? Okay, so yeah, so this hopefully that gives you a deeper idea of a slightly deeper idea of how it works. All right, so so we're actually from that we're actually gonna make use of this an interval function in our dynamic content. So so there are many ways to make our web page kind of more dynamic. One of like the various implementations or kind of stuff. Many ways that people kind of use like public APIs to generate new content. For example, we can like, I don't know, get we want to get a new cat image every single time, right? So we kind of in this segment we kind of learn how to request information and such as objects for like images in networks. So there's in the, let's say it's online, so it's network, right? To help us pull like these images into our local database, right? Our not say local database, but our local rendering of our web page. All right. So a small tip is that you need that if you are interested in doing this kind of or get a random image or like get information from online, is to read up on this thing called REST API. in your own time if possible. It will give you actually a greater understanding in like how to access and use them, but most importantly, it will give you like a way to learn how to create them. So this helps you to like to understand how to write like requests and responses, and things like requests you can actually learn. So like any website that does, let's say, the cat API, for example, actually uses RESTful API to render this image. Wait, hello. Right. So it's actually requesting. You can request the server, and you can set it up so that you are requesting your own data like, at any point in time. So this usually run through Express.js, AWS. You can set up like multiple um chain links to like request, triple request into like I don't know, like I've done that before. It's crazy. But you don't have to. But this understanding this will give you a good insight into how to do web development, and it's very useful in web development to learn how to put external information, because you will not always use internal information. And like a static website such as like this, you are more likely to create a website or a web development that has to be fluctuate based on the data that is inputted, right? And this is becoming way more and more popular. Sure, like um your your portfolio can be static. Let's say if you want to make a web dev portfolio or things like that, or your own personal website. But how cool would it be if you could make it dynamic and like you just input information and you auto change it, and you don't have to keep changing it all the time. So yeah, I think you can do things like this. The most important thing is that you'll come across terms such as like cross-site resources and like promises and async functions, things like this. And these are very important to understand whenever you are like requesting information from outside. Alright. So this will help you achieve kind of like better success in timing configurations for like the data input and other means. What I mean by timing if configurations for data input is more about understanding how long it takes time to access stuff, and then like how do you like mitigate the circumstances to provide like a good user experience on the website itself. Okay. So the API that we kind of be using like or applicate we'll be kind of using is the cat API, which I showed you here, right? This provides like an image whenever we access the given link. So that means, let's say if they give us this link, right, and wherever we wanna access it, if we just type, you should get a new link every time. So let's see if I search it twice, you can see this image is different from this image. Okay, so the most important thing that you need to see here, right, is that whenever we request when we refresh and request is like this gives us a JSON object. Okay, so a JSON object is a JavaScript object notation. So this tells us what the object is and information about the object. So the thing is, we will understand. So let's say I don't know, we keep refreshing until they get that's a big one. Oh, wait, let me get a better one. More information. Oh crap, keep overclicking. You know what? Never mind. Okay, yeah, this is great. So this actually is similar to how it works like a dictionary. If you've ever done Python or other kind of coding languages, you understand that it works similar to an array, where you have a value pair, like attribute value pair system, right? But in this case, we can kind of set like anything to be like our attribute. For example, like text is like we can set breeds to be our attribute, and then we can personally set it so that we can get all the information we want in this object, and this is like one object, so that we can like just easily allocate stuff, right? So this website actually just provides this object in the JSON form, in the JSON object, so that we can actually take whatever values we need. And these values we need, the important ones we need are this URL. Alright? This URL actually holds the image, although it tells us the information like width and height. It tells us what the image actually is. It's the image link that we're referencing from. Alright? So kind of alternative way of doing it is actually, oh wait, crap. Put it back. Okay, and bring across. All right. So, okay. So, the alternative is actually using Ajax, which is asynchronous JavaScript and XML to access web servers on web page. You don't actually kind of have to use this all the time, but it's a good thing to look into. So, just for your information. So how do you actually get a request or like request the thing itself is by using loading documents, right, or loading the website itself, right? So how do we get that? So oh wait, did I just skip whole? But okay, yeah, this is fine. So we're actually gonna use this function called load.json, which is the important thing we are looking here at, and we want to use this function called fetch. Okay, so what does fetch do? Fetch actually is an asynchronous function. All right, so this is as we said before, we use the idea of promise, right? We said this thing promises and async functions. Okay, so an asynchronous function means that we don't know when the function will end when we are requesting something or we want to do something. We say the function start now, but we don't exactly know where it will end. It may end like faster before something or after something. So and therefore, because we don't know exactly when it will end, like exactly, it's not synchronous to the point where we want to do something after that. Because let's say we program a function to run like directly after this cat image, like we get the URL, it may not actually run if you use a normal function because it may not get the image fast enough, for example, or it takes, or let's say it takes, if it takes if it's slow, if it's fast enough, yeah, sure, you can get it, but this is not always the case. Okay, so the only thing you need to understand from like fetch is that this requests a URL, and this URL kind of sends a response, and then when we are encapsulating response, and we check that it's all right, we are putting in a JSON format, a JSON object for our website, our JavaScript to use. Alright, so what does this statement do? If response status is 200, alright, so if you actually look on websites, the website status status 400. Why did what's the status close? This is the one I wanted. Right. So you can actually see here, right, that everything that you have here, you see that they have you receive a 403. I'm pretty sure you receive a 403 before, or like any kind of error code that you get from the internet, results in this thing called status code, right? So this obviously you can see the main ones here, like information response, success, redirection, client errors, and some errors. So the most error ones are usually 400 and 500s, and these are things that you will see very often, like if you have like server problems or client problems. Like client problems is mean things on your side. Alright, so and then most of the time you will actually see 200, which is actually the OK function, the OK code. So this is very standard response. Usually people we actually, if you create your own API, you can actually send different codes, and this helps you to kind of like deliver different accept like responses to other people. So whenever they see a certain status, they can react to it. Like particularly say for example accepted, but it's like still not processing, not completed. You can tell people that, and like it's just a way of telling people what the current status of the website is, or like your server or like your client side. Alright, so after checking it, and this is so therefore we are actually looking at seeing that if it's okay, gives us the okay go sign, and then once we receive that, return the object, right? If not, we just throw an error. Alright, so when we take this function and use it, example, let's say we want to load here. Alright, this is not right? So once we load JSON, and then we say we want the console log, we want to run it one time just to see how it will be okay. Okay, so let's take this, and then we'll use it. Oops. Right. So, okay, that's why I should have clicked that. Okay, see what this returns us. This returns us a promise. Okay, so what does the promise do? So the promise actually, what this actually looks at is that it looks at what we are actually getting as the as an asynchronous function, right? So that means we aren't actually, it's just a promise that we are actually getting, but it's not the actual final result of the function, right? So how do we actually get the result of the function, right? So we actually need to actually look at this thing called then, alright? So you can see here we use then, and this is actually a way of working after the promise has been fulfilled, for example, right? So this is and that's why when we in this particular function on load handler function, right? When we actually load the JSON, once we get the promise, this is from here is the promise onwards, right? We run the then function on it to get the final response, right? To get the final object. And this would, and from this function, this would gives us the console or whatever the react based on that, right? So if you didn't actually understand this, what this arrow does, it's actually very similar to how a function normally works. If you use a normal function like this, or you could create a function called like this. This is also a function. These are equivalent, all right? So these are equivalent functions. This is called arrow function. It usually is the same. I think it's just that it's under a different standard of function called ES6. Which is a different script by like the Europe side, and it's just like, but you could use it anyway because it's very standard to use. And a lot of people like to use it because it's actually a lot nicer to see on script anyway. Okay, so so now that we have this, we want to check. We know that we need to find the then response, right? So we find the then response. Then we get the object from what we returned in here, in this response here, response.json, and we want to take this and move it into the console itself. You can see our response. Right, so this is an error because this is supposed to be a bracket here, and then it should work fine. There's another bracket here. Alright, so we're running that. You can see that we have two results in our console, which is first our promise, because we console the whole promise, but we also tell it to react to the asynchronous function by running the then function, and also running the rest, obtaining the object that was returned, and then logging it. So we see here, it returns us the JSON object exactly as what we got in roughly in here in a single like web viewer. So, okay. So how do we actually make use of this? So since now we have a JSON object reacts the same as every single object. Okay, so an object can be accessed like this. So let's remove the console log. Right, you know what, I'll just run it like this. So say we get new image, now, and then we say we want our get new image equals response. And so you're able to access the image like this. So we can actually look for it in the center. So we need to make sure it is 0, the first object. So you can, as you can see here, in the first layer of the array is actually an array. So you do need to access it by as array, but it's in the 0. So you always put 0 either way, right? It could be an array of multiple items, but usually if you see one, just put 0. It should tell you anyway. And then you want to access the other ones by calling out what we are actually looking for. So let's say we want to look for breeds. No, but we're looking for this URL, sorry. URL. Wait. Wait, is that really wrong? Did this not have a URL? Okay, cannot read 0. Oh, I know why. Wait, is it 1? Oh, okay, I know why. It's because, okay, so this, you can see why the reason now is. So let me explain to you what happened. This function ran, and then this function ran, right? And then this function ran at the end. Okay, so why this didn't work is because this, when it runs asynchronously, this then does not actually always like give it does not always work, like as I said, asynchronous doesn't always end immediately, like before it's not synchronous. So therefore it will wait for this to happen first, and then it will run this function first. And while we're running this function, this tells us that it's already null, right? So we can't actually access anything from that from outside. We actually need to go inside the instance function, or wait, maybe like do a timeout and wait for a bit, or we could just do this. Console log here, response 0 URL, right? Oh, crap. Okay, yeah. So you can see here, oh wow, we got our URL, right? So how do we actually implement this in our website itself, right? So we need to replace this image, right? So all we're doing is taking this and set it into a function. And then we say, I don't know, get new cat image. Get new image. Then we say this, right? But what we're actually doing in this function actually goes to the log. So we don't actually want to keep it in that system where it's stuck in the log, right? So what you can do is change once we get the URL here, we are actually immediately changing the, wait, why is it always messed up? We're immediately trying to find and change what we get afterwards, right? So so response, this is what we need, alright? We are taking it and say that we want to access the image.source attribute, and we want to change it to this. Oh, it's a string. It's an idiot. Alright, so this image.source attribute means it should look for the image here to change the thing itself. Okay, but so let's say we run it, get new image, and there we see how this image actually has changed to the website from the website itself. Okay, but how do we actually keep getting a new image every time? Do we have to always thing? So what we can actually do, we can actually set this as our onload function in our website. So in the body, set it as onload. And we tell it that every time you load the whole thing, I want you to get a new image, right? You can have the base image, but you need to get a new image from me, right? So you see, every time it's running a load, you will load a new image, all right? So you obviously you could set like as if this image didn't appear, the first image didn't appear, such as doing this dot source equals to this. So wait, oh crap. See, so you can set it to actually not show anything at first and then show it afterwards, because we animated it first, because we know this function will take some time because it's looking for the URL in this JSON object itself, and it has to like get the JSON object first, right? So the other way that we can actually kind of use, as we said before, is Ajax. We won't really implement this in this case, although I can show you how it works. But the thing is that you can actually load documents from your website into your website. So you can take, let's say I want to get this information, this text. I want to take it. So one thing you could do is actually let me take this function. I need to actually set up a text here that's called ajax.text. Hello. Oh, you know what? Just call it div. Hello. Right. And we can just replace this, what we have in our index here. Say we want to load the document. Alright. And what does this do? This actually, so let me go through step by step. This sends a HTTP request, and this although it seems like you are actually not really on the server, like the reason why it works because I'm running it on a live server, and this but you can actually do it as a normal thing. But the thing is, you need to have some sort of a server to actually do the request system, right? If it's just a static HTML file, this I can't remember if this will work, but it might not. And then if it's on ready state chain, like means once it's ready, this request is ready, it will run this function. All right. So what this function does is that if it reads, so means once it receives the value of whatever they got, it will set it have a ready state and a rest status state, same as what we did for the request just now. For the HTTP, like the response status, right? So, and everything that we have is that we're just setting it to the init HTML, right? And then we want to set whatever we get here to the response text. So this response text is actually important because it is an attribute of this function of this, which is actually the HTTP, and this HTTP will return a response text if it gets that. If it's ready and it has a status, even if it's not empty, it will return an empty string. All right. So let's say we save things here, and then we say we're gonna load the document. So what happens if we do the load document? We change the onload. Oh no, you know what? I just change the button. Let's set the button up. Okay. Load doc. Ajax. Replace. Okay. Right. Replace the whole documents HTML in HTML. Right. So if I click this, what do you see? Get Ajax info not found. Why is this thing? Because we did not actually set this properly, and therefore we have the issue. Oh. Ta-da! See, hello, this is Ajax, alright? So this has actually set the entire demo, the thing in this demo, right? This ID to the inner HTML, which is like hello, it is Ajax, right? So we have actually converted everything into that although we just said it. I mean, you don't actually have to replace the inner HTML, but it's up to you to do what you want with this response text. All right, you can console log it and just want to see what's in the text. But the most important thing is understanding that this is the receive function, and this is what we're looking through next is called HTTP open text. This is the setting up of what we are actually looking at. So this is the get function. Get means we want to receive something, means we're receiving the receiving end or something when we request something, and then Ajax info dot text is what we are looking for, right? We are looking for the Ajax.info on this server, which is provided by this this connection, all right? And we set it to true because we just want to keep what we get, right? So what we send it to them, we click send, and this will actually send the request. This is called sending request, and then from that state on, it will run this function wherever it receives that, all right? Or the status has changed. Okay, so with that, this you can also run the like, and this function is what we will need again in the following data retrievals, but we'll take a small break for 1 to 2 minutes, and we'll return to finalize on the database retrieval, right? Meanwhile, please do ask any questions at the pigeonhole or in the chat itself, all right? So the send sends the request to the web browser or the web server. Alright, so XHTTP request actually sends the request to the server itself. So the browser actually has no wait, let me show you the clearer structure. Request image. Is this better? No, this is not the Node.js one. This is the. Let's see. No, not this. Alright, okay, so this is the HTTP request, okay? So what this actually sends is that it sends it to the web server regardlessly. You need to understand that your browser, right, is very local. It actually doesn't do much except for anything that's static. So like unload, things like loading the website and stuff like that, it does. But anything that's a request system actually goes to the server itself. This is where we can host documents, and in this case, I don't know if you can see this. Let me see. Let me make this bigger. Okay, yeah, okay. So in this case, the reason why we can access this text is in the server is because it's in the web server, all right. And this web server is generated by me doing the live server thing. So you can open a you either way you need a server to run your website. So this is just basically making a request to the server and whatever files that are on the server, all right. Hopefully that answered your question. Oh crap! Is it? Oh man, my mic got disconnected. Oh crap! This is the whole time you hear it. Okay. All right. So. All right. Routes. Okay. So there is right. Let me explain it again. It's right. It's right. It's fine. It's fine. So XML is actually the format that the HTTP request runs on. So HTTP request is basically sending a request to the web server, right? So what we're doing is like whether we're getting information or receiving information, we are still making a request, right? It's always a request to this particular server because we want the information or we want to deliver information or get information, right? So XML is basically a language, right? That is a format that is very similar to JSON. It's just that it uses a slightly different language to set up the whole HTML, right? So actually in HTML, right? If you see a HTML file, right? It's actually set up in the XML format. So this whole thing, you can see like all these tags and stuff, like you can see is exactly the same. And in most documents, you will actually see like XML version, what number, right? So you will actually receive like XML HTTP request is the best usually at setting up for getting XML information, but it's not restricted to that. But if you don't know but if you're looking at general not understanding like HTTP requests, you should take a look at HTTP request methods, and this so HTTP basically is it's like the protocol that we are trying to get information over, right? And there are several methods to it. So we got get, post, put, hit, delete, and patch and options, right? So these three things are these three methods are the more common ones, and you will very likely use them unlike these methods, all right? The get method is usually used for requesting data, and you can actually see that in our XML HTTP request when we're setting up the settings, we are actually setting it as get and this particular specified resource that we are getting, and this allows us to get the resource, all right? So so this is the resource that we can get data from this resource. So there are other nodes and stuff like that. You can nuances that you can see in like the methods and things like this. These are guidelines that people actually follow to set up like public or like APIs that other people will use. But if it's for personal use, you wouldn't actually you don't have to care about these nuances that much. You are more likely to just use them as like a general guideline. And it's not say that when you use a get method or design like API yourself or request yourself, like where let's say you want to send something, right? You can also set when you post something and like want to update a resource that you receive a response as well. So this allows you to actually send data as well as receive responses. Although the receiving response is not not exactly it's optional, right? Okay, so and using the put method is actually very similar to post. Is that the difference is that put is usually more constant information, and is more likely to reproduce the same result because it is based usually more on the information that you can access constantly, and it doesn't fluctuate too much. Post, however, is more for larger fluctuating things, so that like if you are changing settings to receive a different response from post, this is what you should kind of do that, right? Okay, yeah. All right, so hopefully that did I answer your question, Ducky Mojo? But okay, if hopefully that answered the question. Yeah, okay, great. So moving on, carrying on the Firebase, the part of Firebase, when you actually create when you follow these steps, right? You will actually bring you to we are setting up database, right? And the thing that we want to set up here is actually the real-time database. So when we create a thing, we want to set up in test mode, right? So this test mode, right, is important because all data we set by default, right, will be in very open access by link, and this is kind of really bad, to be honest, because like everybody with kind of like the reference will able to touch it. We're only using it in this format so that it's easy for you to like work with it and not set up the configuration for now. Yeah. Okay. So once you create it, you set the time. But however, you will learn this in actually how to access this in the Firebase workshop next week. So whenever you are using this learning how to do database retrieval, you will actually learn it next week. Alright. So so this file format or whatever you learn with JSON, right? We are actually gonna use this especially to interpret data from the online database and process into information that we really need, okay? To use in our website. So so once we did that, we can actually fill our collection, and this collection is very similar to how JSON works. So we also change this to real-time database. We should have changed this to real-time database, and you can see that all these have a specific thing that we can name and value pair, which is very similar to how JSON works. All right, so you can actually fill this up by yourself, or you can be like me and just I filled it out by myself already. So I'm just gonna like delete this project, and then delete project, disable. Right. So actually, y'all can all access this as well. I don't really care. So if you set up the database, you see in the real-time database, you see that this database actually has a website link to this, right? How do you get this website link? So this website link is actually a URL is actually generated, right, by Firebase to allow access into your data collection itself, right? So you can see here that in my collection I have a test object which actually has subject and title objects which have a string inside for both. Alright, so and then I can edit them if I see fit. Alright, so that you can see here is the string. So how do you actually access this? So you actually need to set up like your project ID, like once which is like featured here already, and then once you set up the whole thing, you set the test. You get slash what your object is, and then enter .json, right? So you can actually, so let's say if I do this, and I say test slash wait, did I screw it up? Test.json. You can see, oh great. Okay, so you can see here that why is that permission denied, right? So the reason why we have permission denied is because we are lacking authentication. So how do we get authentication? And this is the reason why you don't I recommend you do not use this method, but we're only doing it in case so that we don't have to do like full authentication like the configuration ourselves. Alright, so you can actually go to service accounts, and under service accounts you look under database secrets, and there's this token here. Okay, this token here is something that a number that you receive, a special thing that you receive, a key that you receive that you can use in your authentication to receive the thing, right? So that you can actually access my database through the authentication key through this website, this link that I provided here, and you can actually click, and once you run it, right? Oh crap! Not exclude the quotation marks. So once you run it, you can see, oh wow, what does it return? So this actually returns a JSON file that has our objects that we need. Alright. So when we do that, right, we can see that we want to make sure that this happens also in our website, right? So we make sure we take this function and we run it in our website. So we run it here, we take this function, and we say we're going to get the data, right? And from getting the data, we say we set onload to get data whenever. Okay, so all you do is just refresh this. Hello? Can you load? Wait, why is this not working? Wait, is it not? Yeah, not doing it properly. Correct what? Sorry, let me take for a while. Oh, I know why. Because I actually didn't run the Firebase data. Sorry, my bad. Right. Alright, so you can see that this returns the JSON function and like the objects that we needed. Alright. So how do we actually turn this into actuable use cases? Alright. So now that we have this, right, the optional activity is actually to make your website, right. How do we take it to recurrently take data from the this Firebase, and after you changing it. So let's say if I change things in this database here, how do I get this website to reflect that? Okay, so I'll actually just work on it itself. I have a way to work on it, but use this Firebase data function, actually the smaller one, to learn how to practice async functions, how to use the then function and react based on whatever response that you're getting to affect whatever that you're having is going in your website. Alright. So meanwhile, take some time to do this if you can, but this is purely optional. Okay. Meanwhile, you can feel free to ask questions. So to end off our thing, we'll actually go through the how we actually build this, right? So what I actually did, right, is that I enabled my response, since we know that we can get the response from this, is to load the JSON and then having to react to the response, right? Alright. So one of the responses that actually is very that you could use in this thing is because let's say we want to set a title like this, right? Set a title and things like this to the website itself. So we can actually set the particular IDs to our crap. This is not supposed to be it. We want the heading, right? Okay, you want the heading to be title. So we set heading to be title. So we get heading. And then we can set the response, and the response dot title should get us the titles like text, alright? And we can also set up documents to get for the thing. Say we want site text. I think it was called subtext. Equals that, alright? Okay, let me check. Heading, and then we have a div. Oh, we need to set ID to this. Subtext. Alright, so now that we have that, we can actually it should actually auto update the information that we get on our site, right? So what this does is that it will take the JSON file and interpret the JSON file and also try to fit that into each category, alright? For the dot response and subtext, alright? We can also, the most important thing is that we need to set it to interval so that we are constantly, every 5 seconds, we are getting new information from the database itself, and that's all. That's all we need to get. Okay, so to run this, we need to make sure that we have no left-hand side assignment, right? So we have left-hand side assignment, which means that this is wrong. Put in, alright. Oops, I know why I did wrong. Oops, should be inner HTML dot inner HTML. Alright. So now it should auto change this information every 5 seconds from running it. Should convert it. Alright. See, now we are actually getting our information exactly the way we want it to be. Alright. So we actually, if we actually make any changes here in our real-time database, let's say we change it here, say I don't know, maybe like KW. Oops, I got it actually. And we change it here. You see, it automatically updates our site here. So this is actually like one of the ways, and the better ways you can actually implement like running your website to load information based on your database, right? You can set images, you can set it up to Dropbox or to APIs to get information. So set it up to your portfolio to get more images from all your stuff that you're doing, things like this. You can, but one way you can actually upgrade this and really even higher tier optional activity is understand if do the double checking if your information is actually the same. You can don't change stuff, right? Like you can actually do some double checking at every single time so that you don't have to run this function over and over and over and consistently like every single time. You can look into that. Yeah, but otherwise, that's it for today. And that's a peek into like how we can use Firebase in our own websites and other stuff that we're building. Right. Right. So we're actually moving on to Q&A this time. So if you have any questions and things like that, please write them in the pigeonhole or in the tag in the chat itself. We'll have it up for about 5 minutes or so, and I'll respond to them. If you have any things that you want to review, you can look on the Twitch channel for to hear again, or you could send us responses in our Telegram 3C chat and things like this, that you can also do. The next week will be following on Firebase workshop, so you'll be learning how to do like things like authentication, like create a sign-in page and things like this, and also like particularly running it how to run alongside external data and configuring it, which will be very useful, especially in your time in SUTD or things like in your personal projects. Yeah. Yes. Actually, this is the last JavaScript workshop. So this is actually an introduction to JavaScript, and it isn't JavaScript is a very extensive. It's a very extensive. There's a lot of things to actually learn about. Because there's a lot of libraries and things that you can actually like integrate and things like this. So you can it's actually this is the baseline for where you can actually start moving into hopefully what interests you in JavaScript and like web development. Because this is the core of what you need to understand for most of the libraries and other things that you want to use to start making things cool. So like you can things like I don't know, like wait, let me see if I have my sub still up. Is this the one? Is the old one? Oh yeah, this is the old one. Alright, this is great, this is great. Alright, so you can actually see this is running through JS. You see my website. So this oh yes, please fill the take time to fill the feedback form, like in the chat there. But meanwhile, you can also take a look at this lah. So this is actually run by JS, the whole sequences with animation and like CSS with animation and like this whole scroll effect where you can do like multiple stuff. You can actually create that using JS, and this will actually help you give you a closer understanding to how to actually use JS to work with JS to like build towards it. Yeah. Yep. Oof. No, this is my client work. Okay. Yeah, so that's it for it. If there are any other questions, please feel free to say them, and please do the feedback form if you can. Thank you. Let's play some chill music to